The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was a place of power. Its walls reached up toward a ceiling made of living crystal that changed colors with the mood of those inside. Today, the crystal glowed a cold blue. It was the color of judgment. Ambassador walked toward the central platform with steady steps. She was a small woman with black hair pulled back in a simple knot. Her uniform was plain gray, nothing fancy. Around her, the delegates of 40 different species watched from their floating seats. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had bodies made of light itself. All of them looked down at her. She carried a single data tablet in her hands. It contained the annual report of human activities across Council space. 300 pages of work, 300 pages of lives saved, disasters prevented, and problems solved. She had spent 6 months preparing it. The delegate spoke first. His name was Lord, and he was covered in smooth silver scales that caught the light when he moved. His species had been part of the Council for 10,000 years. Humans had only been members for 50. "The human ambassador may present her report," he said. His voice was bored, like he was already tired of listening. Bowed her head slightly. "Thank you, Lord. I will begin with our medical missions." She pressed a button on her tablet, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed a map of Council space with thousands of small dots scattered across it. In the past year, human medical teams responded to 412 requests for assistance. We treated over 2 million patients across 73 different worlds. Our doctors developed 3 new treatments for diseases that were previously considered incurable. A murmur went through the crowd, continued. Our disaster response teams were deployed to 18 major emergencies. We rescued survivors from the mining collapse. We provided food and shelter after the floods. We evacuated 3 colonies during the Rim sector radiation storm. She changed the display. Now it showed images of humans working, doctors in white coats treating alien children, engineers fixing broken power systems, teachers standing in front of classrooms filled with students from a dozen different species. Our educational programs have trained over 50,000 individuals in basic medicine, engineering, and agricultural science. Our peacekeeping forces have maintained stability in 4 conflict zones. Our refugee assistance program has helped relocate 200,000 displaced persons to new homes. Lowered her tablet and looked up at the Council. "This is what humanity has done this year. We are proud of this work, and we are ready to continue serving the galactic community." For a moment there was silence. Then Lord began to laugh. It was not a kind laugh. It was the sound of someone who found something small and amusing. Other delegates joined in. The representative, a massive creature with 4 arms and a face like cracked stone, slapped his hand against his armrest. "Serving," Lord repeated. He said the word like it tasted bad. "Yes, you humans are very good at serving, like faithful pets always running to help." Kept her face calm, but inside her chest, something grew cold. "I do not understand your meaning, Lord." The delegate leaned forward. His yellow eyes were bright with amusement. "I mean that everything you have described is menial work, grunt labor, the kind of thing that any species could do if they lowered themselves to it. You speak of treating patients and building shelters as if these are achievements. They are not achievements, they are chores." The delegate, whose name was Commander, nodded his heavy head. "My people conquered 12 star systems before yours learned to make fire," he said. "We do not boast about handing out blankets to refugees. Such work is beneath us." "And yet someone must do it," said quietly. "Yes," Lord agreed. "And that is why we keep you around. Every great civilization needs servants. You humans have found your role and you play it well. We should perhaps give you treats for your good behavior." Laughter again, louder this time. The crystal ceiling flickered with shades of purple and red. Stood very still. She had been an ambassador for 20 years. She had faced insults before, but never like this. Never so public, never with such open contempt. She looked around the chamber. 40 species, 40 delegates. Not one of them spoke in defense of humanity. A few looked uncomfortable. Most simply watched with curiosity, waiting to see how she would respond. "Is this the opinion of the council?" she asked. Her voice was steady. "That human contributions are worthless, that our work has no value." Lord waved a clawed hand. "Your work has value, the value of convenience. You do the things that the rest of us do not wish to do. That is your purpose. That is all you will ever be." Commander raised one of his 4 arms. "I have a proposal," he announced. "Given that humans contribute nothing of true importance to this council, I move that we reduce their representation. Currently, they hold 3 seats. I propose we reduce this to 1. They do not need 3 voices when they have nothing meaningful to say." Lord smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I second this motion." The vote was quick. 32 species voted in favor, 5 abstained, 3 voted against, but their objections were quiet and weak. The motion passed. Watched it happen. She did not speak. She did not argue. She did not raise her voice or demand fairness. She simply stood on that platform and watched as her people were dismissed. When the vote was finished, Lord looked down at her with satisfaction. "You may keep 1 seat, human. Be grateful we allow you that much. Now, is there anything else you wish to say?" Looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at the rest of the council. Her eyes moved slowly across every face, every form, every species that had voted against her people. "No," she said simply, "I have nothing else to say." She turned and walked toward the exit. Her steps were slow and calm. She did not run. She did not show anger or fear or sadness. She simply walked. Behind her, the delegates began talking among themselves, already moving on to other business. The matter of the humans was settled. They were nothing important, just servants who had been reminded of their place. Reached the doors of the great hall. They opened automatically, revealing the long corridor beyond. She stepped through and kept walking. She walked past the statues of ancient council founders. She walked past the gardens filled with plants from 100 different worlds. She walked past the windows that showed the stars outside, cold and distant and eternal. Finally, she reached her office. It was a small room, plain and simple, like everything human in this place. She closed the door behind her and sat down at her desk. For 1 minute, she allowed herself to feel the anger. It burned in her chest like fire. All those years of work, all those lives saved, all those sacrifices made by human doctors and engineers and soldiers who gave everything to help others. And in return, they received nothing but mockery. Then she pushed the anger down. She took a deep breath, and she opened a communication channel to Earth. Admiral appeared on the screen. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had commanded human peacekeeping forces for 30 years. "Ambassador," she said, "I watched the session, all of it." "Then you know what happened." "I know." The Admiral's voice was flat. "And I assume you're calling because you want to discuss our options." Nodded slowly. "They have made their feelings clear. They do not value what we do. They do not respect our work. They see us as servants and nothing more." Admiral was quiet for a moment. "What are you proposing?" Looked out her window at the stars. "I am proposing that we stop, all of it, the medical missions, the disaster response, the peacekeeping, the refugee programs, everything." The Admiral's expression did not change. "You want us to withdraw." "I want us to stop wasting our efforts on people who despise us. There are other worlds out there, Admiral. Worlds that are not part of this council. Worlds that might actually appreciate our help." Admiral leaned back in her chair. "The council will not react well to this. The council has made it clear that our contributions are worthless. If they are worthless, then they will not miss them." A small smile appeared on the Admiral's face. And if they do miss them, turned back to the screen, then perhaps they will learn something. Perhaps they will understand that kindness is not weakness, that service is not submission, that the people who do the work they are too proud to do are the ones who hold everything together. She straightened in her chair. I will draft the formal notice of withdrawal tonight. I want all human personnel out of council space within 60 days. Quietly. No announcements. No explanations. We simply leave. Admiral nodded. Understood. I'll begin making preparations. The communication ended. Sat alone in her office, looking at the blank screen. Somewhere in the Great Hall, the council was still meeting. They were discussing trade agreements and territorial disputes and all the important matters that important people discussed. They had already forgotten about the human ambassador and her worthless report. They would remember soon enough. Picked up her tablet and began to write. Outside her window, the stars continued to shine, cold and patient and full of possibilities. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, humanity was about to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Captain stood on the bridge of the medical ship Hope's Light and read the orders 3 times. The words did not change. They remained the same each time he looked at them. All human personnel to withdraw from council space, 60 days, no exceptions. He lowered the data pad and looked out the main viewing window. Below him, the planet Prime turned slowly in the darkness. It was a beautiful world, covered in silver forests and crystal oceans. 12 million beings lived there, and in the capital city, the great medical center that humans had built and operated for 20 years continued its work. Captain, his first officer, a young woman named, stepped up beside him. The crew is asking questions. They want to know why we've been recalled. Turned to face her. Had served with him for 5 years. She was one of the best medical officers in the fleet. She had saved thousands of lives on dozens of worlds. Because we are no longer wanted here, he said simply. Blinked in confusion. Not wanted, but we run the largest medical facility on this planet. We treat over 1,000 patients every day. They depend on us. The council has decided that our work is worthless, menial labor, servant's work. His voice was calm, but there was something cold beneath the words. They have reduced human representation to a single seat. Ambassador has decided that if our contributions have no value, then we should take those contributions elsewhere. The young officer was quiet for a long moment. What about our patients? We have people in the middle of treatments. There are children in the recovery ward. If we leave, we will give the medical staff complete documentation of all ongoing cases. We will train them in the procedures they need to know. We will do everything we can to prepare them. Paused. But in 60 days, we will be gone. Looked down at the planet below. They won't be able to handle it. Their doctors are good, but they don't have our experience. They don't have our equipment. If a major outbreak happens, then they will have to deal with it themselves. His voice softened slightly. I know this is hard. I know it feels wrong to leave people who need us, but we cannot keep helping those who treat us with contempt. We cannot keep giving everything while receiving nothing but insults. He put a hand on her shoulder. There are other worlds out there, worlds that are not part of the council, worlds where people will appreciate what we do. That is where we are going. That is where we are needed. In the days that followed, the withdrawal began. It was quiet and orderly, just as Ambassador had ordered. Human ships arrived at council worlds and collected their personnel. Doctors packed up their clinics. Engineers handed over the systems they had built. Teachers said goodbye to their students. On station, the main trading hub of the galaxy, Commander supervised the closing of the Human Logistics Center. For 15 years, his team had managed the supply chains that kept dozens of colonies fed and supplied. They tracked shipments across 1,000 light years. They solved problems that no one else could solve. An official came to observe the shutdown. His name was Overseer, and he watched with obvious amusement as human workers boxed up their equipment. "Running away?" he asked with a sneer. "I suppose we should not be surprised. Humans were always too soft for real work." Commander did not look up from his work. "We are simply relocating our operations." "To where? What primitive worlds will be fortunate enough to receive your precious help?" Finally turned to face The Outer Rim Confederation has requested our assistance. Their supply networks are in chaos, and they have asked us to help organize them. Overseer laughed. "The Outer Rim, those backward colonies, they cannot even afford to pay you. You are leaving the center of galactic civilization to help farmers and miners on the edge of nowhere." "Yes," said simply, "we are." He returned to his work. Watched for a few more minutes, then grew bored and left. He did not think to ask how the station's supply systems actually worked. He did not wonder what would happen when the humans were gone. Those were small details beneath his notice. Admiral coordinated the withdrawal from Earth. Every day she received reports from across Council space, ships departing, facilities closing, personnel returning home. And every day, she received requests from Council worlds asking humans to stay. Not from the governments. The governments were silent, but from ordinary people, from hospital patients who did not want to lose their doctors, from students who did not want to lose their teachers, from refugees who did not want to lose the people who had given them shelter. Read every request, and she every one. "I am sorry," she said in response after response, "but our decision has been made. We wish you well." On Prime, a young child named waited in the recovery ward of the Human Medical Center. She had been sick for months, suffering from a rare blood disease that only human doctors knew how to treat. Doctor had been caring for her since the beginning. Now Doctor sat beside her bed, explaining what was happening. "I have to go away for a while," he said gently. "But I have taught your doctors everything they need to know. They will take care of you." Looked at him with large silver eyes. "Why do you have to leave? Did I do something wrong?" Shook his head. "No, little one, you did nothing wrong. Sometimes adults make decisions that do not make sense, but you are strong and you are going to be fine. I believe in you." He held her small clawed hand for a moment longer. Then he stood up and walked away. Outside the hospital, the last human transport was waiting, climbed aboard and took his seat beside the other medical staff. Through the window, he could see citizens gathered near the landing pad. Some of them were crying. Some of them held signs asking the humans to stay. But the transport lifted off anyway. It rose into the sky and disappeared into the stars. Lord watched the departure from his office in the capital city. His aide stood beside him, looking nervous. "My lord, the people are upset. They do not understand why the humans are leaving." Waved a dismissive hand. "They will forget in time. The humans were never important. We simply allowed them to do work that was beneath us. Now that they are gone, we will hire others to do the same tasks. It is nothing." The aide hesitated. "But my lord, who will we hire? The humans were the only ones willing to do this work." Turned away from the window. "Then we will train our own people. It cannot be that difficult. The humans are primitive creatures. If they can do it, anyone can." But even as he spoke, something nagged at the back of his mind, a small worry that he pushed down and ignored. The humans had seemed so calm when they left, so peaceful, so unbothered. Almost as if they knew something he did not. In the Outer Rim, the first human ships began arriving at worlds that had never received help before. Small colonies, mining stations, agricultural settlements, places that the Council had ignored for centuries. Captain landed the Hope's Light on a planet called New Haven. It was a farming world, home to 300,000 settlers who grew food for the surrounding systems. They had never had a proper hospital. They had never had doctors who could treat anything more serious than a broken bone. The governor of New Haven met on the landing pad. She was an old woman with weathered skin and eyes that had seen hard times. Her name was Jin, and she looked at the human ship with wonder. "You really came," she said. "When we heard the rumors, we did not believe them. We thought the humans worked only for the council." Smiled. "The council has decided they do not need us, so we have decided to help people who do." Governor Jin's eyes filled with tears. "We cannot pay you. We have nothing to offer except gratitude." "Gratitude is enough," said. "Gratitude is more than we ever received from the council." Within days, the first field hospital was operational. Human doctors began treating patients who had never seen proper medical care in their lives. Engineers started building water purification systems. Teachers opened schools for children who had never learned to read. And across the outer rim, word spread. The humans were coming. The humans were helping. The humans actually cared. Meanwhile, back in council space, the first problems began to appear. Small things at first. A supply shipment that arrived late. A clinic that could not find enough staff. A refugee camp that ran out of food. The council paid no attention. These were small matters. Someone would handle them. But the problems continued to grow, and the humans were not there to fix them. On station, the supply system began to fail. Without human logistics experts, shipments went to the wrong places. Food rotted in warehouses while colonies starved. Medicine sat unused while patients died. Overseer screamed at his subordinates, demanding that they fix the problems, but they did not know how. The humans had made it look easy. It was not easy. On Prime, the medical center struggled. Doctors did their best, but they did not have the training or the experience to handle complex cases. Patients who would have been saved began to die. In the recovery ward, the young girl named watched as her condition grew worse. The doctors did not know what to do. Doctor had left detailed instructions, but the new doctors could not understand them. The treatment was too complex. Her parents begged the government to bring the humans back. The government refused. "We do not need them," Lord declared. "We will solve these problems ourselves." But the problems only got worse, and in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, the crystal ceiling began to change color. It shifted from cold blue to a dark and troubled red. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. And the humans were not coming back. 3 months after the humans left, the plague came to Prime. It started in the outer colonies, in the farming communities where medical care had always been limited. A strange fever that spread through the air. It made the scales turn gray and fall off. It made breathing difficult. It killed within days. At first, the government did not worry. They had faced diseases before. Their doctors would handle it. But their doctors could not handle it. The plague spread faster than anyone expected. It jumped from colony to colony, carried by trade ships and travelers. Within weeks, it reached the capital city. Within a month, 10,000 were dead. Lord stood in his office, staring at the reports with disbelief. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Why are our doctors failing?" His medical advisor, a nervous scientist named, wrung his clawed hands. "My lord, this is a new strain. We have never seen anything like it. We do not have the equipment or the expertise to develop a treatment." "Then find someone who does." Hesitated. "My lord, the humans. Their medical research facilities were the most advanced in the galaxy. They had treated similar diseases on other worlds. If anyone could develop a cure." Slammed his fist on the desk. "I will not beg the humans for help. They left us. They abandoned their posts. This is their fault." But even as he spoke, more reports arrived. 20,000 dead, 50,000, 100,000. The hospitals were overflowing. The cremation centers could not keep up with the bodies. In the recovery ward of the capital city hospital, Young lay in her bed, struggling to breathe. Her blood disease had weakened her immune system. When the plague came, she had no way to fight it. Her mother sat beside her, holding her hand. "Where is Doctor?" whispered. "He said he would come back." Her mother could not answer, she could only cry. On station, the situation was just as bad. The supply system had completely collapsed. Ships carrying essential goods sat in port, their cargo rotting because no one knew where to send them. Colonies that depended on outside supplies began to run out of food and water. Commander called an emergency meeting of his staff. "Where are our logistics experts?" he roared. "Where are the people who know how to run these systems?" One of his officers spoke carefully. "Sir, our logistics experts were the humans. They designed these systems. They trained the people who operated them. When they left, they took that knowledge with them. Then retrain our own people." "Sir, that would take years. The systems are extremely complex. The humans had developed specialized software and procedures that we do not understand. Without their documentation," swept the papers off his desk with one massive arm. "Find a solution. I do not care how. If you cannot fix this, I will find someone who can." But there was no one. The humans had been doing this work for so long that no one else had learned how. It was the work that no one wanted to do, the menial labor that was beneath the great civilizations of the Council. And now that the humans were gone, there was no one left who could do it. Across Council space, the cracks became chasms. The Confederacy, a group of 12 worlds that had relied on human peacekeeping forces, descended into civil war. Old conflicts that had been kept under control for decades erupted into violence. Ships fought in orbit while cities burned below. The refugee colonies, home to 3 million displaced beings, ran out of supplies. The human aid workers who had fed and sheltered them were gone. No one came to replace them. People began to starve. The mining stations, deep in the asteroid fields of the outer sector, suffered a series of catastrophic failures. Human engineers had maintained their aging equipment for 30 years. Without them, the machines broke down one by one. Miners were trapped underground. Rescue teams could not reach them. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, emergency sessions were held every day. The crystal ceiling burned with angry reds and frightened oranges. Delegates screamed at each other, demanding solutions, assigning blame, begging for help. Lord stood at the center of it all, his silver scales dull and his eyes hollow. "We must contact the humans," said the delegate from the worlds. "We must ask them to return." "We cannot," insisted. "We cannot show weakness. We cannot admit that we need them." "Then what do you suggest?" shouted Commander. "My people are starving. The supply lines are destroyed. If we do not get help soon, billions will die." The chamber fell silent. For the first time since the humans had left, the leaders of the great civilizations had no answers. Finally, a small voice spoke. It belonged to Ambassador from a minor world called. Her people had never been important in council politics. They had never had power or influence, but they had always been friends of the humans. "I will go to Earth," she said quietly. "I will speak to the human government. I will ask them to return." Lord laughed bitterly. "And what will you offer them? We have nothing. We have already shown them what we think of them. Why would they come back?" Ambassador looked at him with sad eyes. "Because they are human," she said. "Because they are kind, because that is who they are." She left the chamber that day and boarded a ship for Earth. The journey took 3 weeks, through space that felt emptier than it ever had before. No human medical ships, no human supply convoys, no human peacekeepers patrolling the trade routes. Just silence. When she arrived at Earth, she was surprised by what she found. The planet was peaceful, happy, even. In the cities, people went about their lives without worry. In the spaceports, ships loaded with supplies prepared to depart for the outer rim. The humans were not suffering, they were thriving. Ambassador requested a meeting with the human government. She was granted an audience with Counselor, who led the Department of Foreign Relations. He was a calm man with gray hair and gentle eyes. He received her in a simple office with large windows that looked out over a garden. "Ambassador," he said warmly, "it is good to see you again. Please sit down." She sat, her hands trembling slightly. "Counselor, I come on behalf of the Galactic Council. We are in trouble, terrible trouble. There is plague on Prime, famine on Station, war in the Confederacy. We need your help." Listened quietly. His expression did not change. "I am aware of the situation," he said. "We have been monitoring events in Council space." "Then you know how bad it is. You know that people are dying. Counselor, I am begging you. Please send help. Please bring your doctors and engineers back. We cannot survive without you." Was silent for a long moment. He looked out the window at the garden, where flowers bloomed in every color. "Ambassador," he said finally, "I appreciate your journey here. I know it was not easy, and I understand your concern for your people." He turned to face her. "But I must ask you a question. When the Council voted to reduce human representation, did you speak against it?" Lowered her eyes. "No, I abstained." "When Lord called our work worthless, did you defend us?" "No." "When our ambassador stood alone on that platform, humiliated in front of the entire galaxy, did anyone come to her side?" His voice was barely a whisper. "No, no one did." Nodded slowly. "I do not say this to be cruel, Ambassador. I say this because it is important. For 50 years, humanity gave everything to the Council. We asked for nothing in return except respect. Not power, not wealth, not influence, just respect. And we received contempt instead." He stood up and walked to the window. "Our people are now working in the outer rim. They are helping worlds that actually want our help, worlds that are grateful, worlds that treat us like equals, not servants. We have found a new purpose, Ambassador, and we are not willing to give that up to return to a place where we are despised." Felt tears forming in her eyes. "But the children, Counselor, the sick, the hungry, they did not vote against you, they did not insult you, they are innocent." His expression softened. "I know, and that is the only reason I am still speaking with you. If it were just about the politicians, I would have ended this conversation already." He turned back to face her. "I will bring your request to the Human Council. We will discuss it, but I will tell you honestly, Ambassador, the answer will probably be no. Not because we do not care about innocent lives. We care very much. But because we have learned a painful truth over the past 3 months." "What truth?" Sat back down. "That kindness given to those who do not value it is wasted. That helping those who despise you only teaches them to despise you more. We gave the Council everything and they spit in our faces. We will not make that mistake again." Ambassador left Earth the next day. She carried no promises, no agreements, no hope. Behind her, the blue planet turned slowly in the darkness, and somewhere in its cities, human councils were meeting, discussing the fate of a galaxy that had rejected them. The decision had not yet been made. But for the first time, the Galactic Council understood something they had never understood before. They needed the humans, and the humans did not need them. The news of Ambassador's failed mission spread through the Council like fire through dry grass. Panic followed, then anger, then despair. Lord called another emergency session. This time, the Great Hall was nearly empty. Many delegates had returned to their home worlds, trying to manage the growing crises. Those who remained looked tired and afraid. "We must send a larger delegation," insisted the representative. "We must show the humans how serious we are." "We must offer them compensation," said another delegate. Credits, resources, territory, whatever they want. Commander shook his heavy head. You do not understand. I have spoken with contacts on Earth. The humans are not interested in credits or territory. They never were. They wanted something we cannot give them. What's demanded? Looked at him with something like disgust. Respect, they wanted us to respect them, and we did not, so now they have found others who will. The argument continued for hours. Proposals were made and rejected. Plans were formed and abandoned. But no matter what they suggested, the truth remained the same. The humans were gone and they were not coming back. Finally, Lord made a decision that would have been unthinkable just months before. I will go myself, he announced. The chamber fell silent. I am the one who insulted them. I am the one who led the vote against them. If anyone can make amends, it must be me. Commander snorted. You think they will forgive you? You called them servants. You called their work worthless. I know what I said. His voice was heavy with exhaustion. And I know I was wrong. Perhaps if I say that to their faces, they will listen. He left for Earth the next day. His ship was one of the finest in the fleet, but it felt small and cold as it crossed the empty space between worlds. Sat in his private quarters, staring at nothing, thinking about the words he would say. When he arrived at Earth, he was surprised by what he saw. The orbital stations were bustling with activity. Ships from the outer rim came and went constantly, loading supplies and passengers. Human vessels painted in bright colors carried names like Hope's Hand and Mercy's Call and Promise of Tomorrow. Everyone seemed busy, purposeful, content. Requested a meeting with the highest levels of government. Instead, he was granted an audience with Counselor, the same man who had spoken with Ambassador. The meeting room was simple, plain walls, simple furniture, a window looking out at a garden, nothing like the grand halls of the Galactic Council. Stood when entered. Lord, I did not expect to see you here. Hesitated. He was not used to speaking to those he considered beneath him, but he had practiced this speech 100 times on the journey here. Counselor, I have come to apologize. Raised an eyebrow. Please continue. I said terrible things about your people. I called your work worthless. I treated you with contempt. I was wrong. I see that now. The words felt strange in his mouth, like stones he had to force out one by one. I am asking you, I am begging you to forgive me, to return to council space, to help us in our time of need. Watched him for a long moment. You are begging. Yes. The great Lord, whose ancestors built an empire while humans were still living in caves, is begging a primitive species for help. Felt his scales flush with heat, but he forced himself to remain calm. Yes, I am begging, because my people are dying, because I was too proud to see the truth. The work you did was not worthless. It was the most important work in the galaxy, and I was a fool not to recognize it. Nodded slowly. I appreciate your words, Lord. I can see that they were difficult for you, but I am afraid my answer is the same as it was for Ambassador. Felt his heart sink. Please, there must be something I can offer, something I can do. You could have spoken up when your colleagues mocked us, said quietly. You could have defended our work instead of leading the attack against it. You could have recognized our value before disaster forced you to. He walked to the window and looked out at the garden. But you did not. None of you did. And now you come to us only because you have no other choice. That is not respect, Lord, that is desperation. Then teach me, said. Teach me what respect looks like. Tell me what I must do to earn your trust again. Turned back to face him. That is not how trust works. You cannot demand lessons in how to earn it. You must discover that yourself through actions over time, and I am afraid time is something you may not have. Stood there, his great silver form seeming to shrink. Then there is no hope. Was quiet for a moment. I did not say that. I said that the answer would probably be no. It has not yet been decided. The Human Council is still debating. There are those who believe we should help despite everything. There are those who believe we should not. The discussion continues. He stepped closer too. Go home, Lord, take care of your people as best you can, and wait, that is all you can do now. Left Earth that day with nothing, no promises, no agreements, just the instruction to wait. But he did not go straight home. Instead, he ordered his ship to the outer rim. He wanted to see what the humans were doing there. He wanted to understand what he was competing against. What he found amazed him. On a small farming world called New Haven, he saw humans building a hospital from the ground up. Local workers labored alongside human engineers, learning new skills, laughing together, sharing meals. The governor, a weathered old woman named Jin, treated the human captain like family. On a mining station near the edge of explored space, he saw human engineers teaching young aliens how to maintain their equipment. The lessons were patient and thorough. No one was mocked for asking questions. No one was dismissed as inferior. On a refugee colony that had been abandoned by the council decades ago, he saw human aid workers playing with children, teaching them songs, helping them plant gardens. The children did not see humans as servants. They saw them as heroes. Watched all of this through the viewing screen of his ship, and he understood something for the first time. The humans had not left the council because they were weak. They had left because they were strong enough to walk away from those who mistreated them, strong enough to find new purpose, strong enough to give their gifts to people who deserved them. And the council had none of that strength. They had only power, which was not the same thing at all. He returned to Prime a changed man. But his change meant nothing to the plague that continued to spread through his world. It meant nothing to the supplies that still did not arrive. It meant nothing to the young girl named, who lay in her hospital bed, growing weaker every day. The waiting continued. Weeks passed, then months. In the great hall of the council, the crystal ceiling had turned a permanent shade of gray, the color of defeat, the color of hopelessness. Reports arrived every day, death tolls rising, systems failing, worlds on the edge of collapse. And on Earth, the Human Council continued to debate. Admiral argued for continued isolation. They will only mistreat us again, she said. Once the crisis is over, they will forget their promises. They will return to their old ways. Captain argued for mercy. There are children dying, he said. Innocent people who did nothing wrong. We cannot punish them for the sins of their leaders. Doctor, who had treated Young on Prime, spoke last. I think about my patients every day, he said quietly. I think about the little girl with the blood disease. I think about her asking where I went. I think about her dying in that hospital, wondering why I abandoned her. He looked around the room at his fellow humans. I did not become a doctor to let children die. I did not dedicate my life to healing so that I could watch from a distance while innocent people suffer. Yes, the council treated us badly. Yes, they deserve to face the consequences of their actions. But we are not like them. We do not punish the innocent for the crimes of the guilty. He stood up. I vote that we return, not for the sake of the council, not for the sake of the politicians who insulted us, but for the sake of the children, for the sick, for the hungry, for everyone who had no part in our humiliation but who will die if we do not act. The room was silent. Then one by one, hands began to rise. The vote was close, but in the end the decision was made. The humans were going back. But not the way they had left. This time there would be conditions. This time there would be consequences. This time the council would understand exactly what they had lost and what it would take to get it back. Ambassador prepared to return to the great hall where she had been humiliated. But this time she would not stand alone. This time she would carry the voice of all humanity. And this time the galaxy would listen. The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent when Ambassador returned. 6 months had passed since she had last stood on the central platform. 6 months of suffering, 6 months of loss, 6 months of lessons learned the hardest way possible. The crystal ceiling above her glowed with a soft blue light, but it was different from the cold blue of her last visit. This blue was gentle, hopeful, almost welcoming. All 40 species were present. Their floating seats were filled with delegates who watched her with expressions she had never seen before: respect, gratitude, shame. Lord sat in his place among the representatives. His scales had lost their luster. His eyes were tired, but he did not look away from her. He met her gaze directly, and something passed between them, an understanding. Commander was there too, his massive form somehow smaller than before. The arrogance had left his posture. He sat like a student waiting for instruction. Carried no data tablet this time. She had no reports to present. She had only words. 6 months ago, she began, I stood in this hall and told you what humanity had done for the galaxy. I spoke of doctors and engineers, teachers and peacekeepers. I spoke of lives saved and disasters prevented. And you laughed at me. No one spoke, no one moved. You called our work worthless. You called us servants. You reduced our representation to nothing, and we accepted your judgment. We left. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the chamber. In the months that followed, you discovered something. You discovered that the work we did was not worthless at all. It was essential. It was the foundation upon which your great civilization stood. Without it, everything began to fall apart. Lord lowered his head. We made a terrible mistake, he said quietly. His voice carried through the silent chamber. We were blind. We were arrogant. We took you for granted, and we have paid the price. Nodded. Yes, you have. And so have millions of innocent people who had no part in your decisions. That is why we are here today. Not because you deserve our help, but because they do. She turned slowly, looking at each delegation in turn. Humanity has decided to return to Council space. We will rebuild the medical facilities that were closed. We will restore the supply chains that collapsed. We will return to the peacekeeping missions and the refugee programs and the educational centers. We will do the work that we have always done. A wave of relief passed through the chamber. Delegates breathed sighs of hope. Some wiped tears from their eyes. But continued, and the relief froze. We will not return as servants. We will not return as inferiors. We will return as equals, or we will not return at all. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data crystal. This contains the terms of our return. They are non-negotiable. She pressed a button, and the terms appeared in holographic form above her head, visible to every delegate in the chamber. First, human representation on this council will be restored to full status. 3 seats, with equal voting rights on all matters. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Second, all council species will contribute personnel to humanitarian missions, not as an alternative to human workers, but alongside them. You will learn to do the work that you considered beneath you. You will understand its value firsthand. This caused more hesitation. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably, but no one objected. Third, a formal apology will be issued by this council, not a private statement. A public declaration, broadcast to every world in council space, acknowledging the harm that was done and the lessons that were learned. Lord spoke. I will draft the apology myself. Every word will be my responsibility. Looked at him. Fourth, the worlds of the Outer Rim will be invited to join this council as full members. They sheltered us when you rejected us. They showed us kindness when you showed us contempt. They deserve a voice in this body. Commander stirred. But they are primitive worlds, mining colonies, farming settlements. They have nothing to contribute to. He stopped himself. The words died in his throat. He looked down at his hands. "I apologize, old habits. The outer rim will be welcome." Nodded. "Finally, this council will establish a permanent memorial to the lives lost during our absence. Every being who died because help was not available will be remembered. Their names will be recorded. Their stories will be told. And the galaxy will never forget what happens when kindness is met with contempt." She lowered her hand, and the holographic display faded. "These are our terms. Accept them and we will return immediately. Reject them and we will leave forever. The choice is yours." For a long moment no one spoke. Then Lord stood. "On behalf of the people, I accept these terms without reservation. We have learned our lesson. We will not forget it." Commander rose next. "The accept as well. We were wrong. We were fools. We are ready to change." One by one, the delegates stood. Every species that had voted against humanity 6 months ago now voted in their favor. Even those who had abstained spoke up, adding their voices to the chorus. When it was done, the vote was unanimous. 40 species, 40 acceptances, no opposition. The crystal ceiling blazed with golden light, the color of hope, the color of new beginnings. Allowed herself a small smile. "Then it is settled. Human forces will begin deploying within the week. Our first priority will be the plague on Prime. Doctor has already developed a treatment. He will lead the response team personally." Lord's eyes widened. He developed a treatment, even while he was away. Doctor never stopped working on it, said. He never stopped thinking about his patients, about the children he left behind. That is who humans are, Lord. Even when we are rejected, even when we are hurt, we do not stop caring. We cannot. It is not in our nature. The Lord of Prime bowed his head. "We do not deserve such kindness." "No," agreed. "You do not, but you are receiving it anyway. That is the difference between us." 3 weeks later, Doctor walked through the doors of the Prime Medical Center. He wore his white coat, the same one he had worn when he left. His medical kit hung at his side. His eyes were tired but determined. The staff parted before him like water before a ship. They whispered his name. Some of them cried. He walked directly to the recovery ward, to the bed by the window, to the small girl with silver scales and large eyes who had been waiting for him for so long. Looked up at him. She was thin and weak. Her scales had lost their color, but she was alive. "You came back," she whispered. Doctor sat down beside her and took her small clawed hand in his. "I promised I would," he said, "and humans always keep their promises." He opened his medical kit and began preparing the treatment, the cure that he had developed during those long months away, the cure that would save her life and millions of others. "This might feel strange at first," he said gently, "but you are going to be fine. I believe in you, remember." Smiled weakly. "I remember." Outside the hospital, human ships filled the skies of Prime. Medical teams spread out across the planet, bringing hope to communities that had lost everything. Engineers repaired systems that had failed. Teachers reopened schools. Peacekeepers restored order. And on the outer rim, the work continued as well. The humans had not abandoned their new friends. They had simply expanded their mission. Now they served both the Council and the Outer Rim, two galaxies united by human kindness. In the great hall of the Council, the crystal ceiling glowed with colors that had never been seen before. Not just blue or gold or silver. All of them together, shifting and dancing in patterns of unimaginable beauty. Ambassador stood on the central platform once more. But this time, she was not alone. Beside her stood Governor Jin from New Haven, newly appointed as the representative of the Outer Rim. Beside them stood delegates from worlds that had never had a voice in galactic affairs. Lord approached with his head bowed. "Ambassador, I want to thank you again for everything your people have done." Shook her head. "Do not thank me. Thank the humans who never stopped caring, even when they had every reason to. Thank the doctors who kept working on cures for people who had rejected them. Thank the engineers who built new systems while mourning the old ones. Thank the ordinary people who chose kindness over bitterness. She looked up at the crystal ceiling, at the rainbow of light that filled the chamber. That is what it means to be human, Lord, not strength, not technology, not power, just the simple, stubborn refusal to give up on other people, no matter how badly they treat us. Was quiet for a long moment. Then perhaps we should all try to be a little more human. Smiled. Perhaps you should. The session began. New alliances were formed. New partnerships were announced. New hope spread through the galaxy. And somewhere in the medical center on Prime, a young girl named took her first steps out of her hospital bed. Doctor walked beside her, steadying her when she stumbled, encouraging her when she faltered. She walked to the window and looked out at the sky. Doctor, she said, when I grow up I want to be like you. I want to help people who need it. The doctor knelt beside her. That is a wonderful dream, and I know you will achieve it. Will you help me? He smiled. Of course, that is what we do. Outside the window, human and alien ships flew together through the silver skies. The plague was defeated. The supply lines were restored. The wars were ending. And in a galaxy that had almost destroyed itself with arrogance and pride, a new chapter was beginning. A chapter written by beings who had learned, at last, the true meaning of strength. It was not about power. It was not about conquest. It was about kindness, freely given to those who needed it most. That was the human way. And now, at last, the galaxy understood.